Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session. I'm Maribel Cherfan, Program Coordinator for the Masters in Electoral Policy and Administration, the MEPA program, and I'm honored to open today's discussion on breaking barriers, gender-based violence, and women's participation in Nigeria's 2023 elections. We are privileged today to have with us the exceptional Ms. Daraini Muazu, a seasoned electoral expert with over 20 years of experience at Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission. A proud MEPA alumna and 2024 valedictorian, she brings first-hand insights into the challenges women face in electoral processes and the steps needed for more inclusive and secure elections. Before we begin, let me briefly introduce MEPA. It is a globally recognized program jointly administered by Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna, UNITAR, and International IDEA. It equips electoral professionals, policymakers, and researchers with the tools and knowledge to strengthen democratic processes worldwide. For those interested in deepening their expertise, applications for the 2025 spring intake are still open, but the deadline is fast approaching, March 22nd. The program is fully online and available in English, French, Arabic, and Portuguese, and more details can be found on our website. Now, to introduce the She Votes Africa initiative, I'll hand the floor to Professor Lorenzo Gaspari, Assistant Professor of International Law and Director of the MEPA program.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Maribel. Thank you so much from the whole of you for being here. And thank you especially for this second initiative of the Breaking Barrier webinar series, this time on Nigeria. I'm really grateful to all the staff of UNITAR and the staff of the MEPA program to allow us to organize this series, which is one of the important and essential pillars of the She Votes Africa initiatives, which is financed by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I invite you to look further in our website to discover all of our initiatives, including the scholarship to participate in the Master in Electoral Policy and Administration. But I don't want to take too much time on the introduction, and because I'm also looking forward to hearing from Daraini, her experience. So I'm just leaving the floor again to Maribel to start the webinar. Thank you again.
Thank you, Professor. Cynthia, would you mind sharing the presentation? Ms. Muazu, you have the floor. Ms. Muazu, you just need to unmute your microphone.
Thank you, Maribel, for your kind introduction. And I also want to thank everyone that is here. Let's put the ball rolling. There's statistics that she has to show the, let her start with the, showing the, thank you. There's a statistics that shows that the total population of Nigeria in 2013 to 2033 by gender, it has showed that the female population amounted approximately to about 102.68 million females, while the male population amounted to approximately 115.21 million, which made that the male population in Nigeria are a little bit higher than the women population. And by percentage, the male population amounted to about 50.54, while the female are about 49.46, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, which makes our Nigeria the most populated country in Africa and 7th most populated country in the world. And you all know election remains a cornerstone of representative democracy, and it signifies the general right for men and women to pursue leadership positions at all levels of governance, owing to the global advocacy to gender equality. However, despite the clamors for improvement in women participation in public life across the world, Nigeria appears to be moving in the wrong direction. Women constitute more than 50% of world as well as Nigeria population through women representation in political decision making. And it has also been on a rise but the increase is persistently slow, barely 1% of 2018, barely about 1% in 2018 compared to the previous year. In Nigeria also, the Nigerian gender policy recommended about 35% affirmative action affirmative action for women. But we seek more inclusive representation of women with at least 35% of both elective political and appointive political service positions. The underrepresentation of women in political participation gained root due to our archaic practice inherent in our own society, much of which was obvious from the pre-colonial era till date. And also the, please can you share the next page, please? Intervening variables such as the women gender-based violence has undermined the participation of women in politics. Globally, violence against women in politics, particularly during the general elections, is a pervasive and worrying global issue that has hindered women's full participation in democratic processes and undermines also the gender equality. Nearly about 25% of women politicians have experienced violence against women in politics. I can share a little experience from the past 2023 general elections where a woman was given a mandate to participate in the election as a governor in the northeastern part of the country. But unfortunately, being that she's a female person and she's a woman, she was played out of that. This majority of Nigerians believe that she won the election, but unfortunately, she had to take this the case to the Supreme Court of Nigeria, but she lost the mandate to even an opposition party. And despite all this effort to address the associated factors of gender-based violence and low political participation of women in political and electoral processes in Nigeria, the 2023 general elections in the country was marred by violence against women. Therefore, this current study sets out to interrogate the impact of gender violence on women participation in the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. And the research questions, we believe that the study seeks to provide answers to the following questions. To what extent did political online harassment, verbal abuse, and political exclusion or psychological violence occur against women during the 2023 general elections? Did political affiliations, geographical location, cultural norm, social status increase the risks of gender violence against women during 2023 general elections? Did women who experienced gender violence during the 2023 general elections participate in elections or as candidates at a lower rate compared to those who did not experience the threat? Can public awareness campaign, strengthening legal system, or increase security presence at polling stations reduce the incidence of gender violence against future elections in Nigeria? Please, can she share the next slide, 2 slides, because I think she's okay. The significance of the study is expected to benefit. Okay, in the research objectives, the research objectives has to determine the extent of various forms of gender, and also to investigate the risk factors related to gender violence and assess the impact of women's political participation and explore solutions to reduce gender violence in future elections. The significance of the study is expected to benefit the following categories of people: the international community, electoral management body, that is INEC, political parties, women politicians, civil society, and also even the general public too can benefit from our study. It has also the study also contributed to provide evidence based on information to raise awareness through highlighting the issue of gender violence in Nigerian elections and also impact on women's political participation. It urges the international community to support an initiative that can address the problem. It provides information that is capable of informing international development programs and policies aimed at promoting women's political participation, combating gender violence in Nigeria. It has, in our own literature review, The concept covered topics like gender violence, electoral gender-based violence, political violence, women political participation, and also differences between an act and a process in the context of elections. It has also, yes, is also a way to review previous studies and also find out factors that influence gender-based violence and its effects on political electoral participation. For the methodology, we have used the descriptive research design and a mixed method research approved approach technique with combining both qualitative and quantitative techniques to understand gender violence and its impacts on elections. For the data collection, we have the semi-structured in-depth interviews, surveys, and some focus groups that we have used. And for sampling, we use the purposive and snowball sampling. And in our participant selection, we have the online and the offline networks involving the political and gender rights advocacy from groups and also existing NGOs and women rights organizations and community leaders. And we also have the secondary instrument of data collection. For the sampling strategy, we use the purposive sampling technique participants and for the participant selection based on the online and online platforms. The study recruited a small initial group of participants actively involved in political and gender rights advocacy online. And for the snowballing technique, we have used the offline networks. This study considered leveraging existing networks of NGOs, women rights organizations, community leaders familiar with the issue. And we also have some referrals that we have used for the research to encourage participants to refer us to people that know people that they know that have those personal experiences or insights into the topic. And in Nigeria, you have to use incentives to get people to even come out to give you their own story. We have used the incentives like the thank you tokens and also raffle entries to encourage referrals and participation. For the online recruitment techniques, we have used the surveys and questionnaires. The surveys and questionnaires hosted on a platform like Google Forms. The instrument was shared through social media, email lists, and relevant website to reach a wider audience. Combining our methods, we have adopted the mixed recruitment, which the study also utilized both online and offline methods simultaneously to diversify the study sample and reach participants who might not be active online. We have also used the online platform to connect with and interview participants initially identified through offline networks. For our own ethical considerations, we have, from the participants, we have analyzed the data and we are more transparent about the research goals and also our participant confidentiality. For the population of the study, we have used we are adopted 4,519 participants, and its population being the total number of women that participated in the 2023 general elections at the parliamentary as politicians, as also voters and supporters and party officials. The sample that we have used, we adopted the Taro Yemen formula to derive a sample size of 399. For the sample technique, we have used a multi-stage sampling, which was used to sample respondents in this study. We use the cluster sampling technique to group a female and a marginalized gender into departments used on the already existing department in the election processes, after which a purposive sampling technique was used to select females from each of the department samples in the study. And also for our data, for sources of our data, as I said earlier, we use the semi-structured questionnaire, which was adopted from the questionnaire, which is required to use the yes or no options. And also the interview, also we adopted the instrument to elicit further information from the participants. For the validity of our instrument, the study adopted, we adopted some contents for senior academic and research experts to validate our items, to examine the items and make sure that they were in line with the objectives of our study. And for data analysis techniques, the study adopted a simple descriptive percentage method of data analysis. It was adopted to analyze qualitative data using descriptive statistics.
Ms. Daraini, sorry to interrupt. Can you
Yes.
just tell Cynthia which slide she has to be on?
Okay, we're now on the same page with her, the data analysis technique.
Okay, so Cynthia, you can just stay on that one. Can you perhaps tell her next when you want her to change?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The data analysis technique, we have used the simple descriptive percentage method of data analysis. It was adopted to analyze qualitative data using descriptive statistics such as frequency counts, percentages, and for the demographic characteristics of respondents. And is also the qualitative data, which was analyzed using thematic and content analysis technique to identify patterns and themes in the interview transcript, and also to focus on group discussions. The quantitative data was analyzed using the chi-square test. This tool was used to assess the association between two categorical variables and depicted in the topic of investigation as basis for the research questions, and also studies objectives. The formula, as you can see on the screen, is seen on the screen, just to justify the methods that was used. Next slide, please. The distribution of respondents according to the demographic characteristics on our table 1, we have categorized them into groups based on age, marital status, educational qualification, occupational employment, and also location. And for the age group, is between the age of 18 to 45 and above. And we have seen that majority of the respondents fall within the ages of 35 to 44 of the rest, who have depicted about 61%. The implication is that majority of our respondents are adults who are qualified electorates and candidates in elections within the context of electoral and constitutional provisions. We also believe that 65% of the sample population are married, which shows that they have the majority of the majority of them have value and experiences on the topic under investigation. 70% of our respondents reside and participated in the electoral processes across our geographical political regions of Nigeria in the conduct of the 2023 general elections. This implies that majority of our respondents are in the rural areas of the country. Next, please. Based on our pie chart, you can see that 61% have the highest, our respondents have the highest number, who are between the age of 35 to 44, while the lowest is between the age of 18 to 24. And for the occupational and employment status, on our bar chart, we had our main respondents are about 50% who have the highest and are all unemployed, and the employed are about 35%. Students are carrying about 10%. Then the homemakers are about 5%. And next slide, please. On our opinions of respondents on the level of awareness and nature of participation for Nigerian 2023 general elections based on the data of variables, we have categorized this group into 3 groups. That is 3 variables: those that have registered to vote in the election, those that voted in the election, and also those that participated in the campaigns. And as you can see in the bar chart, those that registered to vote are about 111, while those that voted in the election are about 287, while those that participated in the campaigns and rallies, that is the pre-election activities, are reading about 243. And next slide, please. So for the opinions of our respondents on the extent of which physical online harassment, verbal abuse, political exclusion, or psychological violence which occurred against women in 2023 general elections, we also have an option of yes or no, and also the variables are grouped into 3. Those that personally subjected to violence and intimidation during elections, 2, physical violence, 3, those that have the verbal abuse, Then those that have sexual harassment, 5 is online harassment, and 6 is political exclusion. As you can see from the percentage, we have those that are subjected to violence and intimidation during elections are reading about 40%, while the physical violence are reading less than that, about 30. Verbal abuse, which is on the highest, is about almost 90%. The sexual harassment, as you can see, is really quite low here. We have a problem in stigma, societal stigma, and fear of repercussion in this aspect of our violence against women in politics. I can give you an example of a trending problem that we are facing now in the Nigerian Senate. While a female senator, a serving female senator, accused the Senate president of sexual harassment, and she gave her details to the ethics committee. But instead of them to give her a fair hearing, she was suspended for 6 months, and she had to rush to the United Nations Parliamentary Women Group to go and report the issue. As at some few days, she was saying it on a social media handler. She said that possibly that she has an insight that she's going to be arrested as soon as she comes back to Nigeria. So you see, that is why the sexual harassment on this our chat is quite low, because people fear repercussion. And the online, and we also have online harassment, which is also quite high, about 70%, and the political exclusion too is reading that. Next slide, please. The testing of our research hypothesis based on the variables of agree and disagree. For the hypothesis 1, we believe that there is no significant statistical negative relationship between the associated risk factors of gender-based violence and women level of participation in participation in the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. The chi-square calculated value is also noted. That is about 9.993. Sorry, I'm losing my. Sorry, please. Please, I'm losing my.
Daraini, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm with you, please. The chi-square calculated value is about 993.4 at 0.05 level of significance, and at 4 p-value of degree of freedom, while the table value is about 16.919, which is less than the calculated value. Though the alternative hypothesis is accepted, and we draw a logical conclusion that there is a significant statistical negative relationship between the associated risk factors of gender-based violence and the women level of participation in the 2023 general elections in Nigeria, which implies that the associated risk factors of gender-based violence contributed greatly to low level of women participation in the 2023 general elections in the country. Next slide, please. The testing of research hypothesis 2, there is no significant statistical relationship between the political party affiliation, geographical location, cultural norms, social status, and the increase of gender violence against women during the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. The chi-square also test was used to calculate the value of the analyzed data above at 0.0 level of significance at about 222.15, while chi-table value at 9 p-value degree of freedom to be 9.488 based on our table 5 of variables. And also the calculated value is greater than the table value, and the nil hypothesis is rejected. And the conclusion is that there's no significant, there's a significant statistical negative relationship between the associated risk factors of gender-based violence and women participation as voters and candidates in the 2023 general elections, which implies also that the gender violence melted against women in 2023 general elections in Nigeria impacted negatively on women's political participation. And this, we believe that the political party affiliations, geographical location, cultural norm, social status, inadequacy of the presence of security and law enforcement greatly increased the risks of gender violence against women during the 2023 general elections. Next slide, please. in our analysis of the major findings, there's a significant increase in gender-based violence against women during the 2023 general elections compared to the previous years. And this violence particularly happened at the southern part of Nigeria, which resulted to about 26.72% women voter turnout, compared to the 34.74% in the 2019 general elections, and a decline was calculated to be about 8.03% voter turnout among victims, which was far from the 50% mark that was targeted by the Nigerian Electoral Commission, INEC, for the elections. Our own findings also showed that the socioeconomic class, location, political affiliations, cultural norms all contributed to an increase in the gender-based violence against women during the 2023 general elections, as women participation in all facets of the voting process. It was impeded by social, cultural, and religious menace. It is also found out that the proportion of women who are victims of gender-based violence in the country's general elections in 2023, be it as they are voters or candidates, was about 5.3% lower than the number of women who did not face this social threat, which is reading about 85.7%. Our research suggested that the strong legal frameworks, public awareness campaigns, and heightened security at polling places can address the problem of gender-based violence against women and ensure that women participate fully in the upcoming elections in Nigeria. Next slide, please. Next slide. And also, in addition to the summary, I need to summarize this our findings. We believe that the physical violence, online harassment, verbal abuse, and political exclusion and psychological violence greatly occurred against women during 2023 general elections compared to the previous years since the return of the country to democratic rule in 1999. About 139 cases were reported, and this is higher than the 128 and 139 incident cases recorded in the 2015 and 2019 general elections, respectively. Some associated factors increased the risk of gender violence against women during the general elections, and it hindered the full participation of women in every aspect of elections, be it that they are voters, they are party members, aspirants or candidates, political party officials, electoral officials, security agents, observers, as monitors, and also press. They all face a lot of violence during the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. We believe the effective public awareness campaign, strong legal system, and increased security presence at police stations can have a potential to reduce the incidence of gender violence against women during future elections in Nigeria. In our policy recommendations, we believe that the legislature, the judiciary, law enforcement agencies should review and strengthen existing laws that targeted campaigns against cyberbullying, physical abuse, hate speech, sexual and online harassment, especially against women, with focus on the southern regions that challenge traditional gender roles and also promote women's empowerment in politics. We also said that legislature, political parties, and other civil society organizations can advocate for and implement quotas and affirmative actions and policies in their political parties and government bodies. We believe also in our own recommendations that mentorship and support networks in political parties, women rights organizations, professional associations should establish and also strengthen existing mentorship programs for women in politics. For our government agencies and civil society organizations and media outlets, they can launch a public awareness campaign that can challenge gender stereotypes and also promote respect for women's political participation. Next slide, please. In the case of our implementation strategies, we believe that they should review the existing laws. That is, the legislature should they should conduct a comprehensive review of existing laws like the Cyber Crimes Act of 2015 and the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015. And also the executive should organize training for law enforcement officers on investigating cyber crimes, online harassment, collecting digital evidence. Also, they should also build capacity for proactive monitoring and identification of online abuse. The social media also platforms and online forums, they can implement robust reporting mechanism for online abuse by drawing necessary lessons from the Western world, like the US experience that have just passed. Then we have also the legislature to lead by example to implement these quarters of the 35 affirmative principle that was approved for women within their own bodies, mandating a certain percentage of seats for underrepresented groups, such especially women. We also believe that strengthening of law enforcement to improve response systems through better training for police officers and other security agencies that are involved in the electoral cycle, and they should also have training, and also they should have a training so that they can handle the gender-based violence cases, including proper investigation and victim support. This which will include maybe like establishing a dedicated gender-based violence unit within the police force, especially the police force, which they are the main source of security in the Nigerian elections. And the next slide, please. In our expected outcomes, we expect that these measures and strategies which are implemented, they should help to reduce the incidence of online harassment, cyberbullying, hate speech against women in politics. It can also increase reporting of online harassment and enhance stronger deterrent effect against perpetrators. We believe that those perpetrators, we know it's going to be a difficult task, but if the existing laws are being implemented and they are being reviewed, all these perpetrators who are the political talks of those so-called our big political politicians in Nigeria, they are the ones that are doing all these having all these problems during election. It is also expected that these measures and strategies are capable to increase awareness of bystander intervention techniques, as more people will be empowered to challenge online harassment. It will create a more supportive online environment for women's participation. We also expect that it will enhance security for women participating in elections, increase reporting election-related violence against women, and also improve response and investigation of election-related violence by law enforcement. It will also increase public understanding and gender equality in politics. It will shift the social norm towards greater acceptance of women political participation. And also it can reduce the online harassment and verbal abuse against women in politics. Combining all this study to the knowledge that people has gotten from our study, it has provided evidence based on information to raise awareness through highlighting the issue of gender violence in Nigerian elections, and also its impacts on women's political participation, urging the international community to support initiatives that address this problem. It has also provides information that is capable of informing international development programs and also policies aimed at promoting women's political participation and combating gender violence in Nigeria. Despite all this to the knowledge, we also have limitations to this our study. The study is limited by the challenge of underreporting of gender-based violence, which is attributed to stigma and fear of repercussion, and also lack of accessible reporting mechanism. And the data availability also, and access comprehensive and disaggregated data on specific forms of violence and locations, perpetrators also might be limited. In terms of our methodology, we believe methodology and scope, we believe that focusing solely on the 2023 general elections might not capture long-term trends and broader societal factors contributing to gender violence. For our future direction for research, we want the study, we suggested that elaborate study should be conducted to consider how other factors like ethnicity, socioeconomic status, disability intersect with gender to shape experiences of violence and participation. We also suggested that there should be a study to be carried out to consider the influence of political parties, institutions, cultural norms on gender violence and participation. Addressing gender violence requires holding perpetrators accountable. Therefore, the study suggests that there should be a study to explore how legal and enforcement mechanism can be strengthened. And in the conclusion of my study, we investigated the impact of gender-based violence on women participation in 2023 general elections in Nigeria, drawing inferences from the major findings and the conclusion that runs through the analysis of the study, with, which is at the rate at which physical violence, online harassment, verbal abuse, political exclusion, psychological violence occurred against women during 2023 general elections is quite higher than the previous years since the return of the country to democratic rule in 1999. The associated risk factors of political party affiliations, geographical location, cultural norm, religion, social status, and lack of access to resources increase this risk of gender violence against women during 2023 general elections. And they were more prevalent in the southern part of Nigeria, southern part of the country, compared to the northern part of the country. Why? Because most of the southern part of the country are predominantly Christians, and their women have been allowed to come out to, they can be voted and be voted for, while in the northern part of the country is predominantly Islam and Muslims. And they believe that there are certain positions that women cannot run for. And as I told you about an instance of a governor who came from the northern part of the country. And these are issues which affected the representation of women. And this hampered the full participation of women in every aspect of the election. Finally, the victims of gender-based violence as voters and also as candidates participated at a lower rate compared to those that did not experience this menace during the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daraini, for this interesting presentation. So before we open the floor to questions, there was one question that I particularly wanted to address to you. I was wondering if we were to fast forward to Nigeria's next generation general elections, what would be, in your opinion, the top 3 warning signs that gender-based violence against women is still an issue until now?
You know, because of the level of corruption that we have in Nigeria, it has already eaten deep into the nation, and it's going to be difficult. I do not see that Nigeria becoming fighting this corruption in the next 20, 30 years to come. But there still be some few maybe level of corruption. You know that Nigeria has never gone into any civil war beside the civil war that we had in 1966. But due to this corruption and level of the way government goes about the way they conduct elections and the way they move the country forward, I think that there might be a revolution if the care is not taken. And without that, I do not think that this corruption will go finally. And due to this corruption, I think it will be difficult for the gender-based violence because like I said earlier in my presentation, these perpetrators that are doing the gender-based violence are mostly political talks who are being covered by the major political politicians in Nigeria, who are even seen as the most powerful people in Nigeria. Either they are even as politicians, even if they are retired, they are still very relevant to the country. So it's difficult to say in future, but I think maybe when corruption is being eliminated, and also strictly we implement all these laws, and when we have the country at heart, I think the next generation will have it easy.
Thank you so much. So we do have one question in the Q&A that I'm going to read to you. But in the meantime, everyone else, you can just raise your hands and we can just unmute your microphone on the system. So please don't hesitate to raise your hand if you have questions for Daraini. So one of the questions that was sent to you was if you actually encountered any unexpected findings in your research. So perhaps a factor that contributed to gender-based violence that you hadn't initially considered.
I have not considered that I think maybe like the implementation, because I feel that implementing laws in Nigeria is a very difficult thing. It is very easy for us to make policies and to recommend policies, but implementing policies, I think, is a very difficult thing, being that we have a very corrupt system, and the major part of the corrupt system is even the judges and the law, the legal framework. So we can only say it on a paper that we believe that this thing will work. It has to be corrected. The implementation is the problem, and I think that is my major thing.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Mr. Juma. Go ahead, Mr. Juma.
Right. Mine is first to thank you, Muazu, for this great presentation. I was touched by the statistics that you gave about southern regions in Nigeria,
yes,
where the research has actually revealed increased gender violence,
yes,
during the 2023 elections. And in my mind, I had some kind of comparative analysis with the northern regions of Nigeria. And so my question is, what specific cultural and historical factors are behind this increase in Southern Africa region in comparison to the northern, regions of Nigeria?
Okay, as I said earlier, the southern region is predominantly Christians, and the women there are allowed to come out to vote and also can be voted for. As I said in my presentation, the cultural problem that we have in the north is that women are not even allowed to come out. Some of them even practice puda. What we mean by puda is that women do not even go out to even have any access to anything. They are mainly homemakers. They are preserved. And those that are able to even go out, they do not have they are not free. They are scared. There's this kind of fear in them that they cannot come out because they are women, they are second class, they cannot have access to anything. So that is why in the southern part of Nigeria, everything, the election, gender-based violence is higher because they have the opportunity to come out to vote and be voted for. While in the northern region, we'll have a limited number of women that participate in the elections and also limited number of women that are voted for. That's the difference. I don't know if I have answered your question, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. You have answered my question. There could be some follow-up question to that, but it's really interesting comparative analysis there.
Yes, sir.
Right. Especially when it comes to statistics, where we have, less people participating. I would imagine that, if there are less people participating, then the rates should actually be higher than a Southern Nigeria, where there is more participation. All right,
Okay, so any other questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. We do have another question in the Q&A. So someone is asking about past elections. They say that they've seen international organizations, civil society groups, and even celebrities mobilizing around women's political participation. And they want to ask you if you think external pressure had any noticeable impact in the 2023 elections.
As you said, what?
Like if this kind of external pressure from international organizations, from civil society groups, from celebrities, if you think it had any impact on political participation?
It has a very limited impact on the Nigerian elections because Nigerians do their thing the way they want to do it. The pressure from the international community, if it doesn't affect maybe the presidency, I will say, the only time the Nigerian government will take things seriously is when it affects the presidency. But any other thing like the state, and nobody cares about that, and it has limited effect on anyone.
Okay. We have another question about the legal framework. So your research suggests strengthening legal frameworks as a solution. Given the political landscape in Nigeria, what are the real chances of actually having any reforms being implemented before the next election? And if you think that these reforms are possible, who do you think should push for them?
The electoral management body are the ones that push all these reforms, and they have to, it has to go through the legislature. But as you can see that the legislature are the same politicians who are the same set of people that cause the gender-based violence and other electoral offenses. So managing these reforms, they choose, like if we have a reform that we need based on the past experiences and we take it to the legislature for amendments, mostly they choose which will benefit them more. They choose what will benefit them more than to what will benefit the majority of the Nigerians. So it's really quite difficult for us to have a total reform of the electoral reform in Nigeria. Very difficult.
We have a question here from Julia. So you mentioned that many women fear reporting violence due to stigma and potential retaliation.
Yes.
If you were advising a woman that is experiencing gender-based violence in politics, what would you tell her the immediate steps would be for her safety and advocacy? I know it's a hard question.
It's a very hard question, and it all depends on whether is she a voter, is she going to be a voter, or is she going to be a candidate? So is she, I'm asking back the person, because if she's a voter, what you can do is just to
no, she's asking as a politician here.
As a politician, well, I'm not a politician, but I can. It's really very difficult question for me to answer that. But we were praying based on what has happened to Natasha, Senator Natasha. We were all praying, the women, elites and a majority of women were hoping that if Natasha's case is being listened to and by the ethics committee, and if the Senate president has been brought to book for what she has been accusing him of, a lot of women will have a voice in Nigeria. But unfortunately, being a woman that has voiced it out and even gone out to the international community,